Okie dokie. How is it going? Oop, is it live? Yes, it is working. Good. Hey everyone, how's it going? Azren, the language nerd here, as per usual. Welcome to episode number 42 of Azren's Journal. For those of you who are new to the segment on my YouTube channel, it's pretty straightforward. This is the segment on my channel where I talk about my personal language learning journey, and of course, a segment where I give various language learning tips for all of you guys. As you can see, I'm wearing my Langfest shirt. So I was at Langfest 2019, literally this past weekend. I landed back in Calgary this morning at basically 9:20 in the morning. And it was really, really good. There were lots of people. There was, I think, something like 300 people, something like that. It was fun, learned some new things. I did a presentation about Gujarati, which was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm happy to be back in Calgary, and I'm looking forward to getting back to my regular day-to-day kind of life. Now, I want to talk about something really, really cool today, something I'm excited to talk about, which is what I'm calling, the Azren's teaching model as of today, as of August 26th, 2019. And I want to talk about, in my perspective, what kinds of policies, not policies, that's the wrong word. What kind of practices, what kinds of things do I believe in? What do I do when I teach languages? What are the focus points that I have? What are the steps that I follow? What do I believe is important for someone who is teaching another language? A lot of the things that we're going to talk about are coming from the perspective of somebody who is not teaching in a public school and not teaching with an actual education board or working with a school. This is coming from the perspective of myself, who has full control over what I teach, what I don't teach. I have full control over my quote unquote curriculum. And so it is coming from that perspective. I've got a couple notes here on my Blackboard, so I will look down from time to time because I was taking some prior to making this video here. By the way, Andrew Ranger in the chat, hello, I see you. Thank you for watching. Now, I think the first thing that really matters is having a good relationship with your student or students. I think this is important regardless of if you have a large class with 10, 12, 15, 20 people, or if it is a small class of literally 1, 2, or 3 people. At any rate, it is important in my perspective to have a good relationship with your students. The better your relationship, the better your classes generally are going to go, and the more your students are going to learn. If you don't have a good relationship, what's going to happen is your students are not going to want to come to class that often. They're not going to want to study with you. They're not going to want to learn with you. I would argue that good relationship is, at a minimum, equally important as the educational quality of the class. And perhaps it is even a little bit more important than the educational things that are happening in the classroom. A few things that I believe in to build a good relationship with someone. I think asking questions about them, asking the student questions and saying, hey, like, what do you like to do in your free time? What do you do for work? How's school? Are you married? Do you have kids? What do you have going on this weekend? Simple things. Ask some questions and get to know them. Additionally, I think if you're trying to build good relationship, it's important to talk about yourself. It's important to share things about you. Sometimes people are actually a little bit shy when you're talking to them, and they're not going to give you a lot of things when you're asking them questions. They're going to give you very short answers. They're not going to give you very detailed answers. Maybe they're a little bit nervous. In those circumstances, sometimes I find it's easier if you start talking about what you're doing. What are you doing this weekend? What do you like? What's happening in your life right now? And then the student will ask you different questions about what you just said. So if I said to a student, oh, I was just at Langfest, they might say, oh, what's Langfest? that's going to start a new conversation. And that is another way to actually build connection and build a relationship with students. I think building relationship as well is if you find things that you have in common, if you have certain topics that you're both interested in, and it makes it easier to actually talk about those topics. So I think relationship is got to be probably one of the top things, if not the top thing in my mind and in my perspective. I cannot emphasize the importance of having a good relationship. The better the relationship, the more at ease the other person is going to feel, the more relaxed the student is going to feel in the class, or the students are going to feel, and that just allows them to learn way more. So relationship, for me, building relationship is a really important piece. Another important piece is understanding why the student is wanting to learn the language. What is important to them? What are they looking to achieve? Are they learning the language because it's a hobby? Or are they learning it because they want to pass a test? Are they learning because they're a child and mom said they have to do it? Or are they learning because they love the language? Are they trying to, who knows, why are they learning? Do they want to move to Mexico and retire? What's the reason? You have to know why they're learning, and you have to identify what elements of the language matter most to that individual. Sometimes the person doesn't know because they haven't thought enough about it, which is totally okay. But to gather as much information as you can about what their needs are, why they're learning the language, what's important to them in respect to the language, I think that matters. So, for example, I have students who don't care very much about pronunciation. They want to sound good, but they don't care if they're perfect. I have others that care deeply about pronunciation, and in which case we have to focus a lot on that. I have students there's so many different variations. There's so many different things that each student and each individual person wants, and it's really important to know what they are, so that you are able to help them with those needs and teach the class in a way that matches what they're looking to achieve. Understand that needs will change. The things that the students want to focus on, what they want to do, will change frequently. They will change a lot. The longer you work with students, the more the student is going to learn about their learning style and what works for them, what matters to them, what doesn't, the more they're going to realize. And then their needs are going to change. The way you teach them is going to have to change. I remember I had a student who told me, yeah, I really want to learn English because it's going to help me at my work. I actually left my old job because I needed to have a stronger level of English to get promoted. So I really want to work on that so I can go back into my field of work and get promoted and really take advantage of the work opportunities. And I was like, cool, yeah, let's do it. We got payment, we started classes. Literally, after the first maybe 1 or 2 classes, immediately he realized that's not really what he wants to focus on. He actually made a complete left turn, and he decided what he wanted to do was prepare for a language test, prepare for a language proficiency test, like a level test. That's what he really actually wanted to do, because if he passed the test, and it just opened up different opportunities at work. So for him, he was then trying to figure out what is the shortest way for him to go past that test, even if that means he's not necessarily great at English per se. So things change. And so you have to ask frequently, and you have to ask, hey, how are the classes going? Do you like the classes? What can we change? Is there anything you want to focus on more? And you have to ask different questions. And ask for that criticism. And it's good if you're getting constructive criticism, or it's good if you're getting when you're asking for what do you want to change. It's good if they're telling you, hey, can we do more of this? I think that can be a really good thing, because then you know what they want and you can make sure you do what they want. So that's something that's really important. The last thing I'll say on this is that you are the teacher. If you are teaching, you are the teacher, and you do have to take control. One mistake I used to make a lot in the past is I would rely on the student to drive classes. I wanted the student to be the one who decided everything that we learned. And for some students, that's fantastic, but for a lot of students, that's not really good at all. For a lot of students, they just don't know. They don't have enough experience with language learning to accurately tell you, I want to do this. I want to practice this. This is not easy for me. I want to improve this. They don't have enough knowledge. So as the teacher, sometimes you have to be the one who leads the class and says, okay, today I think this is the topic that makes sense. So now we've talked about building relationship. We've talked about understanding student needs. These really matter. I think from there's a list of topics that need to be taught regardless of the student, regardless of their needs, regardless of anything. There's a list of topics that have to be taught. And the list of topics is the following. There's some there are some grammar concepts: present tense, past tense, future tense. They have to know how to talk about things in the present, the past, and the future. Those three things have to happen. That's going to look different in every language. Every language has different ways of doing that. But those are three grammatical concepts that if somebody is learning a language, they need to understand those three concepts, in my perspective. They're three common things that come up in regular conversations. I think it makes sense to know basic phrases. What's your name? How are you? Where are you from? Where is blah, blah, blah? My name is, I like, I don't like, yes, no, maybe. There's lots of please, thank you. There's many basic words and basic phrases that I believe need to be taught. In fact, that's probably going to be one of the first, if not the first class that you ever have. I think the phonetics and the pronunciation matters a lot too. There has to be a solid amount of time placed on pronunciation. I think depending on the person, you might place slightly less or slightly more attention on pronunciation. But generally, it is something I will make sure that we spend time on. I'll make sure we spend time on pronunciation. I think there's a decent level of importance on pronunciation. And then as well, the next thing here is self-introduction. People should be able to talk about themselves. If I ask you, hey, what's your name? You should understand and be able to respond, my name is. If I say, what do you do for work? You should be able to talk about your work. Oh, are you from this city? They should be able to talk about it. Topics about themselves, those topics, they have to be really good at them. I find if you're good at talking about yourself, it's actually really easy to fake fluency when you talk to people, because often the conversations you have with people are not very long. The strangers you meet, they're shopkeepers, they're people who work in restaurants, they are, people you meet at an event, you're meeting people and you're not having very long conversations. And really the only thing you have to be able to do well is talk about yourself at a basic level and ask about the other person and understand them at a basic level. So I think working on that is really important. After you've got those things, so those 6 things, I'll list them out again. Present tense, or talking about the present, talking about the past, talking about the future, pronunciation, basic words and phrases, and then we have talking about yourself at a basic level in a conversational way. Those 6 things need to happen. Those 6 things are very, very important. Once you've done those, now that might take time. That alone is going to take time. That alone is not a simple feat. This is not something that will take you 1 month. This is not a 6-day process. This will most likely, with most classes and most people, will take time. Okay. However, those 6 have to happen all the time. From there, I think we can have some variation. There's different things you might be focusing on, depending on the person, depending on their needs. However, I think a general guideline to follow in every class is, did you cover a minimum of 10 new words? Did the class or the one person, private class, group class, did the students or the student learn at least 10 new words? I think that is a generally good guideline to follow. So if they're learning 10 new words every single class, you're practicing the present, you're practicing the past, you're talking about the future, you're correcting their pronunciation, you've learned your basic phrases, you're continuously practicing talking about yourself, and you're slowly building your vocabulary. I think this is an excellent framework. This is an excellent process to be following, and I think this works really well. Once the class is over, you finished a class, you're doing this, there must be homework. There must be homework. Homework is very important. In my experience now of teaching for a few years and having learned for many more than that, if you don't give homework and have an expectation around homework being done and homework being completed, most people will not practice very much between classes. They just don't. So the homework has to be structured. So far, as of today, I've realized the best way to structure homework is to tell students, hey, the day after the class, I will send you one homework assignment that will be very short. It will take you 10, 15 minutes. The student has to send that homework back within 1 day, 2 days maximum. The student sends this assignment back, you correct it within let's say 1 day, and you send it back to the student with corrections and another homework assignment. The student has to complete the new homework assignment the student has to look at the feedback and complete the new homework assignment by the next 1 or 2 days. The most important thing, there's two important things with homework. Homework has to be short. These should not be 1 hour assignments, 2 hour assignments. No, homework should be short, and homework should incorporate speaking and writing. Okay, so for example, we finished a class today. We finished an English class, and today you learned how to introduce yourself. My name is Azren. I live in Calgary. I like to watch movies. I have a younger sister and I have a mother. Okay, there's a very short introduction. That's what I learned in a 1 hour class. The homework should be, my teacher is going to send me the homework should be, I have to introduce myself to you by tomorrow in an audio message sent via WhatsApp or maybe Instagram audio message saying, hi, my name is Azren. I live in Calgary. I like to watch movies. I have a younger sister and a mother. And they have to type out exactly what they said. So there needs to be a writing and a spoken element. Now, here's the cool thing. Because this teacher is going to correct your homework and give you feedback, what needs to happen next is the teacher has to reply as well with speaking, and they have to type out what they said in the spoken reply. So I might say, wow, it's very nice to meet you. How long have you lived in Calgary? I don't know. They're going to type that answer out. Maybe you have to explain what the question meant because maybe they don't understand. And the person is then going to reply. Does that make sense? So if you're doing this, the student is going to be getting speaking practice. The student gets writing practice. The student gets listening practice because you are sending them an audio reply. And the student gets reading practice because you're typing out what you said. They're getting everything. And they're getting it multiple times a week. This, I think, is a great summary of, let's call it, Azren's teaching model, at least as of today. This is typically how I tend to approach most classes. That's kind of the standard approach that I usually have, with variation depending on student needs and things like that. So let's recap this. Number one, you need to know the learner's needs, and you have to understand the learner's needs are going to change, and you have to remember that, and you have to ask them, oh, are the classes working for you? Do you like them? Yes or no? And you have to understand what their needs are. Number two, you need to have a good relationship with your student. Ask them questions, know things about them, find interests that you both have that you can talk about. Talk about yourself, tell them about your life. You have to have a good relationship. Be friendly, smile. Number 3, there's various topics you must teach. You must teach present, past, future, pronunciation, basic phrases, introducing yourself, and every class 10 new words. Maybe more, but 10 is a good number. Okay? Number 4, you have to give homework. The homework has to be 3 to 4 days a week. The homework should be short, 10 minutes, 15 minutes maximum, very short homework. And the homework should make the students speak and write or type. You are going to correct their homework, and you're going to send it back to them within 1 to 2 days, and you're going to give them more homework. When you correct it, you're going to give them some spoken. You're going to speak and send a voice note with corrections and with their homework. And you're going to also type out what you said in the voice note. That basically sums it up. That's kind of my approach right now when I teach. So I actually made this video kind of selfishly. There's some people that I'm sending this to. There's one particular person I'm sending this to give them a bit of a framework, to give them some. She's a teacher that works with me. To give them a bit of a framework when she's working with different students that I'm sending her. So, all right, guys, appreciate your attention. We'll talk later. Bye for now. See you. Why isn't it ending? There we go.